So I spent probably I'd say a good 6 months trying to run a small business without a regular social media presence. Yeah, that doesn't work. Welcome back, everyone, and if you are new, then hello. My name is Eve Daniels, aka The Nerdy Nanny, and I'm an author, student, and human-shaped being. But we're going to focus on the author bit for now, okay? A few weeks back, I did a video where I summed up my Project June, which was basically where I was dealing with some of the more business-oriented and administrative tasks that come with being an author and small business owner. I'll go through more of those at some other point, but if you want a general summary, you can check out that video over here somewhere, probably. One of the things I talked about with Project June and that I wrapped up in that video was how important it is to have a consistent social media presence. You hear about this a lot from content creators and advice pages and top tips for starting a YouTube, Facebook, or basically any other kind of platform, that you need to have a consistent presence. And again, they're all right, but have a consistent presence isn't helpful advice if you don't know what you're doing. So I spent the better part of the last 2 years figuring out what a consistent social media presence was, and it's pretty much only in the last month that I think I've actually figured it out. So I thought I'd share with you. If you saw that last video where I reviewed Project June, some of these are going to seem familiar to you. I'm going to go through them again, and I'm going to go into a little more detail though, so don't skip ahead. If you haven't seen that other video, don't worry about it. We're going to go into everything today. Essentially, I used 4 different methods to help me figure out my social media presence and to move forward. Track how long things take, so you know how long they take. It's really easy to say, oh, it takes 10 minutes to put up a Facebook post. It's harder to admit that you spent 40 minutes staring at your phone before that, trying to figure out what to post, and scrolling through your previous posts to make sure you're not repeating yourself. Tracking how long things actually take to do is the first step, and I cannot underestimate its importance. You need to know how long these things take. Underestimating the amount of time that you're going to have to spend is a great way to burn yourself out and get frustrated later on. The first thing to do is start by making a list. Look at the social media platforms that you are using. Yes, all of them. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, whatever has your face or brand on it needs to go into that list. Then spend the next week looking at how often you post, on what platform, how long it takes you to post, and what kind of response you get. You're going to need this information to basically do a social media audit. You need to look at how long it takes you to post on something versus the traction you get and the type of traction. If it takes you 10 minutes to post on Instagram and you get 50 responses versus 40 minutes to post on Facebook for 10 responses, you need to figure out where your time is better spent. By the same token, if everybody responding to your Instagram page is an immediate family member, but all of the people that respond on Facebook are potential clients or customers, maybe you need to figure out how to get faster at Facebook. This is the kind of information that you need to collect in order to figure out where your time and energy are best spent moving forward. Natalia Leahy actually talked about this in one of her videos, and she recommends having no more than 2 social media platforms that you are using. I don't know that I necessarily agree with limiting to 2, but I definitely think that people need to scale it down to something that's manageable for them. I use 4 personally, including you. I have YouTube, a Facebook page, an Instagram, and a website for the Nerdy Nanny. All of these different platforms take different amounts of time, and they all post different types of content. So doing an audit was key to understanding where I need to spend my energy. Once you have your audit, you'll be able to create a social media budget. And I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about your time. Yes, your time is actually worth something. Shocking, I know. You need to decide how much time you're willing to spend either per day or in total per week on social media. If you're willing to spend up to 1 hour a day, that's 7 hours a week if you're doing it on the weekends. If you're only doing weekdays, that's 5 hours a week. Personally, that's about my budget. I'm willing to go a little bit over, so I say 5 to 6 hours per week, but that's it. I'm not really willing to go beyond that because I have other responsibilities and other demands on my time, and I know that. So 5 to 6 hours a week is my social media budget. Whatever I need to do or to cut to meet that budget is just what has to happen. The important thing to consider when setting up your social media budget is not how many link clicks you want to get or how many likes you're trying to go after. The important thing to consider is how much time and energy you can expect to sacrifice for zero return. Because you might get zero return. We're all shouting into the void and hoping we can use it to gain traction and build a platform. But going into it with those expectations is dangerous. It's like investing in the stock market expecting a 20% return. They tell you not to invest money that you can't afford to lose. And I'm telling you the same thing. Don't invest time that you aren't willing to sacrifice for nothing. I hope you all build amazing platforms and get traction and use it to develop your readership. But I also don't want you spending those hours thinking that that is a guarantee, because it's not. The third thing I did was to create content guidelines, and I actually created different guidelines for each of my different platforms. I'm going to give you a couple of examples for content guidelines. I use Facebook for the Nerdy Nanny, but I don't get a whole lot of traction from Facebook, so it's not worth a huge amount of my budget. That being said, I don't want my presence to dry up and disappear if anyone actually did want to look for me on that platform. So what I do is I use my Facebook platform to repost content that I've already created elsewhere. I post articles that I've created for my website. Occasionally, I will post YouTube videos and sometimes Instagram posts, but I'm not generating new content for Facebook. This way I can keep the platform active without having to devote a large segment of my social media budget to those posts. The other thing that I did was actually thanks to Marissa Mohi. She turned me onto the Tailwind app, which I have been using to schedule my Instagram posts. Remembering to post to Instagram was one of the single biggest problems I had because the camera on my phone doesn't actually work. So I would have to photograph things ahead of time and then remind myself to post them on a consistent basis. You can see where this is going. I wasn't posting regularly, the pictures were grainy at best, and there were a lot of features of my bedhead. I signed up for the free trial of Tailwind and I will continue to use it now that the trial has run up. Basically, the app allows you to schedule posts from this web platform. Once you link your Instagram account, Tailwind will actually tell you when the best windows to post are. Because I post kids book content, I thought, mid-afternoon or early part of the day after parents had dropped their kids off at school or before they got home would be a good time. Now, when people are looking at my Instagram? 11:30 at night and 1 o'clock in the morning. That seems to be pretty much it. I don't know if that's because some of my followers are Swedish or if parents are just doing a lot of late night scrolling, but that's when people look at my Instagram posts, so that's when Tailwind suggests I post them. I went ahead and followed the recommendations to see what happens, and now my friends are going, "Oh, I saw your Instagram post. Cool." I'm like, a lot of my friends had completely forgotten about the fact that I even had an Instagram because they were never seeing my posts. Now, I'm growing in followers and increasing in reach. The other thing Tailwind does that's really cool is when you tell them a little more about yourself, they will actually recommend topics to post about. For example, the Nerdy Nanny. I deal with kids' books and a little bit with tutoring, study habits, and education. So one of the categories it recommends for me is education. As such, I've started posting links and tutoring advice and stuff like that, and those posts are gaining in traction. I do actually recommend Tailwind. I think it's a phenomenal app. It's $10 a month, but the free trial is for 30 posts, not for 30 days. So if you're only posting 2 times a week, that free trial will last you several months. If you're not sure whether or not your Instagram account is worth maintaining because you don't have the time or you never remember to post, I do suggest go ahead and try the free trial. Schedule a couple of weeks out of posts, just once or twice a week, and see what kind of traction you get. You do actually get a more consistent following on Instagram the more regularly you post. So I post 4 times a week. I would do more, but I don't have time for that. So 4 times a week is my happy medium. When you're spreading yourself over multiple platforms, it can be hard to keep track of what you posted and when. The Tailwind app was great for sorting through my Instagram posts, but I have stuff on other platforms, and really it came down to me deciding what kind of content I wanted on each of these platforms. On YouTube, I've left the kids' stuff behind. I am not skilled enough yet with videoing, scripting, editing, or any of that to create the kind of quality kids content that I would want people to associate with me. So for now, AuthorTube and study advice is pretty much where we're going to be. Also, be prepared for a lot of Florida to Sweden moving vlogs coming your way. Once I parceled off what kind of content I wanted each platform to represent, it was a lot easier to decide what I wanted to put out there and when. Scheduling in advance made that even easier, as my Facebook and Instagram posts are normally scheduled at least a week out. Facebook, closer to a month. The 4th step was a part of that, scheduling, as in planning out a publishing schedule so that I had content going out on different platforms, different days of the week. I didn't want everything going up on Saturday, or nothing going up for 4 days at a time, and then 3 days of busy. I wanted to keep my posts regular across the different platforms so that each one was unique, but also so that I didn't have any dry spells. The end result was an index card. Because of course it was. This is my social media schedule. Yours does not have to look like mine. Yours could have different platforms. If your base is much younger, you might want to be using Snapchat or even Twitter, as much as I hate it. But this is what works for me. I create a new article for thenerdynanny.com every week. Most of those are about kids content, study tips, educational resources, and stuff like that. I use the guidelines that I created to help me decide those things in advance. Because I'm only posting there once a week, I use the post on the Nerdy Nanny to sort of frame my other posts. I will post on Facebook twice a week, once earlier in the week and once after the new article goes up. I put up videos on YouTube twice a week, Fridays and Sundays, and that is mostly because the times that I have available for filming and editing. I also post on Instagram 4 times a week, like I mentioned, and most of those are scheduled a week out. I use Tailwind to create a pattern to those so that I don't repeat myself, but also so that I'm able to create consistent quality content that I want to reflect what I think the Nerdy Nanny is. Trying to build a business in the digital age means that you need to have a social media presence, whether that is just on Facebook or whether you have scattered yourself across 4 channels like a crazy person, is up to you and where the people you need to interact with are. If your primary base is using Twitter, you need to use Twitter. If your base is mostly on YouTube, you need to use YouTube. But having a consistent presence matters. I hope these tips have been helpful and that they will help you to avoid the 2 years of chaos and confusion that I managed to inflict upon the nerdy nanny in its earlier years. Let me know if you have any other further questions about social media and the kind of content and branding and things that help. I want all of us to be able to succeed in everything that we put our minds to, but part of that is being able to find the resources you need to guide you through that. So, if there are any further questions you have, or if there's anything that you want to know about, please comment down below and I'll try to get to it as soon as I can. Hopefully, I'll be able to answer some of your questions and help you avoid some of the mistakes that I made early on. I hope you guys have had a wonderful week, and I will be seeing you soon with another video, and be good. Bye. So, there's another car. See, people complain that my videos are too dark because I film at night, and the reason I don't film during the day is because I live next to a major road. Shut up! Okay, everything's fine. Again, there's a truck.